but she was always confident in her voice.
Let's talk about the singing and let's talk about that voice, because there were times I was watching this film and I thought, no, Naomi sounds too much like Whitney. And at one point I just thought, but that is Whitney.
Yeah.
So put it out there for me.
Yeah.
Were you singing? Were you lip syncing? Because as well as the mannerisms, I thought there's no way she can just be lip syncing. First of all, Naomi, welcome and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
When you found out you got this role, tell me your first feeling.
Like it was like absolute joy and then immediate fear.
Why fear?
Because
it's Whitney
Houston.
Yeah. And was it anything to do with the fact as well that there have been other biopics and other documentaries about her?
For sure. And I think like when people are talked about from so many different perspectives for so long, it's really hard to form an original opinion sometimes. And so that the challenge of kind of stripping away what I've been told about Whitney and then starting from the beginning and figuring out my own opinions of what her life was and imaginations of how she felt in that time took a second, because at first it was like, it's Whitney Houston, and you just think like she's superstar, like there's nothing else I can really add to that.
Absolutely. But you did add something really beautiful. Because I will say that this was slightly different to most of the biopics and documentaries that I've seen. Can't speak for any others, but I know what I've seen. This was more of her, we were looking inside her emotional life. Of how she dealt with a lot of the things that were going on. From an emotional perspective, how did you take on that role? How did you take on how she would have dealt with her father abusing her finances?
I think, to be honest, it was hard work for me to get to that place where I was like, okay, this has to be from her internal world. Suddenly when I really like stepped into that part, I was like, oh, I understand that. That's actually the most accessible I've ever found Whitney is, okay, what are the ideas of betrayal, feelings of pressure, feelings of having to sacrifice parts of yourself that you might not want to, having to change for a society that might not accept you if you all of those things are like big themes that are universal.
Absolutely.
And so that was really lovely to find Whitney's humanity amidst all of her greatness and the kind of out of this world talent that she was, because that's sometimes a bit distracting to get to the core of a human being.
I see that Pat Houston was one of the producers, or was she executive producer?
Executive producer on it.
Did you get time to sit down with Pat to really understand who Whitney was?
Yeah.
From a family point of view, not from a critic or a fan or the media point of view.
Yeah. Pat Houston and Gary Houston would come in and visit, and it was beautiful to talk to them. It was important for me to see how they talked about her, their facial expressions, even about what was going on for them. How I really kind of I clocked. I was like, oh my gosh, this is an incredibly generous thing that they're doing, because obviously Whitney is talked about even to this day, and so much of it is about how it ended and the drugs and stuff, and they are carrying the burden of that. And so I really appreciated that they're kind of stepping back into their own grief to be able to offer this, and I think that's extremely generous.
When the time came to start filming, did you...
Sorry, panic. But yes, yeah.
How did you switch Whitney on? Do you understand where I'm coming from? Because you had mannerisms to the T. Oh my goodness! Because
thank you.
Yeah, but you did.
Thank you. No, it was over a really long amount of time. Like I had 8 months of press. Prep. No, could you imagine? That's now. No, 8 months of prep, and it was like little by little, every single day, just practicing and perfecting. So by the time I was ready to film, actually, those things were in my body. Like I would find myself like, FaceTime with my family, and I would be doing Whitney expressions or talking like in the same tempo as Whitney, even if I was talking in my own accent, because it was just a thing that I was practicing. And this is the amazing thing about when you absorb that much information about a very specific thing, is that the body starts to adjust to it. And it's like my favorite thing about being an actor. Like you immerse yourself in something for long enough and it becomes effortless.
Absolutely. There was a big emphasis on her relationship with Robin Crawford. And this was something that I found when Whitney was alive. She neither confirmed nor denied.
Yeah.
However, after she passed, Robin spoke about how beautiful and pure their friendship was.
Yeah.
But this film, we actually see that they are lovers.
Yeah.
And was that something that you were expecting? Obviously, I know you would have researched and read, but the lovers part of her and Robin. How?
Yeah, I didn't. I had known it before. I was on the project. I didn't realize how long lasting that relationship was and how it morphed over time, because they really, like, in their younger years were the lovers, and then they moved to like best friends, and they were still best friends even when they, it's such a beautiful kind of look at love. And I think the most interesting thing about that relationship was that, yes, it ended, the lover side ended, but there was no question that they still wouldn't be super close. And actually Robin became, supportive even when she was dating other people.
Yeah.
I think it's important. It's I keep on saying it, but like this is her formative relationship in love. And I feel, considering the fact that Whitney was going through so much and had so much pressure from such a young age to perform, I feel grateful to know like that Robin was always there with her.
Yeah. One of the characters in the film, one of the people in her life that we didn't see that much of in other films was Clive Davis.
Yeah.
And I loved the scene where Sissy, who was getting ready to sing, saw Clive and went, oh my God, my throat, I can't sing.
Yeah.
Because she knew Clive was there, but Whitney didn't.
Yeah.
And had no idea that
amazing?
she was auditioning.
Yeah.
Clive says, I think we've just heard the
greatest voice
of this generation. And Clive is there throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
That was something that quite surprised me, if I'm going to be honest, because he was very open at first. He said, I don't get involved in my artist's personal lives. But he crossed a line with Whitney, but it was a healthy line and a healthy crossing.
Yeah.
Because he really cared for her.
Yeah. I think that's the most interesting thing about that dynamic, is that they kind of swap places. You have Whitney at that point so eager for connection, and, Clive's kind of father figure-esque kind of thing going on, and he's business minded, and by the end it's like he's there in the relationship and he's like, I want to give you support, and she's going, actually, this isn't your place. And it's because obviously she's going through a lot when it comes to her her addiction, and it's complicated, and I think that does happen in our line of work. You can't help it. People who you work with, see you at your most vulnerable points when you're entertaining, because it's not all it's not all this lovely part. There's a lot of negotiation to be had.
All right, let's talk about bad boy Bobby Brown. That relationship, I think, started quite purely. It was a pure, she saw him performing,
attracted.
And there was an instant electricity there, wasn't there? She got booed when she was nominated, and he turned to her, and apparently this is a fact. He said, look, don't worry, you're Whitney Houston. It was just a shame that he couldn't simmer down his bad boy ways, because the marriage didn't start right. And it was a shame, because if he hadn't got somebody pregnant just before they got married, they might have had a chance.
Yeah.
Do you think it was brave of Whitney to still go ahead with the wedding, even though she knew he had somebody pregnant?
I don't know, because she was my age when, she was getting with Bobby.
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't be comfortable with it. No judgment. But love is a complicated thing.
Yeah.
And you can't be denied, regardless of how it ended or how it went in their marriage, the initial fiery attraction, youthful attraction that she probably didn't have. This is somebody who's had the responsibility of being a business working woman since she was 19 years old. To get a break and just to be with someone who wants to have a good time is important too.
And it's amazing how Sissy and John always called her the princess.
Yes.
And she was very attracted to this bad boy, wasn't she?
So
the princess wanted to come out the palace.
Right, right. And like, who can blame her? Like, the thing is, it's like the idea of like the words like princess and diva and all of these things that, you know, we call women are great if things are going well, but it can be really confining too. Like, and what does that mean to be a princess? I think those were some of the questions that popped up for me in researching it. It was like, what does it mean to be a princess? Like, I wouldn't want to be no princess.
So in researching, do you think that she was just under a little bit too much pressure?
Yeah, and an upkeep of an image that wasn't necessarily natural to her, but it was an image that worked for, you know, the market in which she was trying to sell, which was not just a black market. This is a white market too, a global market at a point in time where black women weren't necessarily widely accepted in the way that she, you know, she's a pioneer in that. And so
having researched her, having played the part now, why do you think she did break that barrier? Because in my opinion, she was just as accepted in the black market as she was in the white music market.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I walked away from in research was that she never let her identity block her from different types of music. You know, this is somebody who has such a high skill level that she really could sing anything. Like anything.
Yeah.
And so when you have that, why wouldn't you give yourself the option to do anything that you want? And, you know, that kind of attitude and confidence that she sustained, at least when it came to her singing voice, was so important for me to highlight. That actually there are many areas in her life that she's not sure about, that she's questioning or isn't confident, but she was always confident in her voice.
Let's talk about the singing and let's talk about that voice, because there were times I was watching this film and I thought, no, Naomi sounds too much like Whitney. And at one point I just thought, but that is Whitney.
Yeah.
So put it out there for me.
Yeah.
Were you singing? Were you lip syncing? Because as well as the mannerisms, I thought there's no way she can just be lip syncing.
I was singing along with Whitney on set. Obviously I'd like really studied those live performances. I did all the recordings of the songs that we use, but in the end it's 95% Whitney, and I just sing, you know, to fill in some of the gaps that are missing, you know, or things that we don't have vocals for, which is more of the acting scenes than anything. It was just miming and trying to make it as like accurate as possible.
You were amazing. Like I said, the arms and the way you were looking up, and the wardrobe was so on point as well.
Yeah.
Naomi.
Yes.
You are Whitney Houston.
That's what my sister says sometimes, and it makes me laugh.
How do you feel? How are you feeling about this role? This is a humongous
it's huge.
role.
I know, but like I think I'm a kind of step by step, day by day kind of girl. So I just, you know, today is today. And then I figured, even when I was filming it and stuff, I was like, I can't look at the bigger picture, because then I start to get really anxious about it. So actually, like, just focusing on day by day stuff and really just taking in the moment. We worked really hard, and I really learned so much about myself as a performer in that time, and as a person, and like actually what challenges aren't too big for me, that I'm just sitting in that space right now.
It's beautiful. Can I just say, I loved that even though we knew how Whitney's life ended, that's not how the film ended. And I thought that was really tasteful.
Yeah.
But the film ends on the medley from the AMAs.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an awesome ending.
Yeah.
The wardrobe was on point. The hair was on point. Your actions were on point. And I need to ask you, and be brutally honest,
I will.
Was that one take?
Oh God, I wish. No, it took about 2 days.
Really?
Yeah, it was over 2 days. There was different tracking shots, so it was, you know, to get some of those really kind of sweeping stuff was at 1 day. But it wasn't. It's funny that in the script, when I first read it, that part of the script, I saw the video. I'd never seen that one before.
Oh my
And
Lord.
Was like, I need to start working on this one now.
You need to look at that. I'm taking you've been onto YouTube and watched it 1,000 times.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my Lord.
Like, I literally, and so actually that was a process of the 8 months that I was in prep for, was looking at that almost every day. So by the time the filming came around, it was so in my body actually that I so enjoyed, like I loved doing that
But you
performance.
could see that, because, and then because I was thinking,
Yeah.
this girl's putting so much into this. This has to be one take because she ain't got no energy left to do it again because it was so
crazy.
real.
It was crazy.
The hands and the way she, it was just, it was fantastic.
It was crazy.
And what I also loved about that scene, even though it was pre her and Bobby splitting up, Sissy, Bobby and Bobby Christina were in the audience. And they got it down to the T.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Well done, Naomi.
Thank you so much.
And I hope that this is the beginning of many, many more fantastic films for you.
Me too.
Thank you so much for coming into Smooth.
Thank you.